like we're at a old hair scramble.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? That unique smell of VP 110 in the autumn air mixed with Maxima 2-stroke premix. Penton. Look at the back seat of this thing. It says Penton KTM. This is a 1974.5 KTM Jackpiner 175cc. This is a bike when we were kids that we look in the magazines, just drool on, and know that they were kind of unobtainium because they were priced higher than the Japanese counterparts. Heck, we'd have been happy to have a XR75 or a SL 125 or something, but these are out of the reach of most kids, and they're just bristling with beautiful hardware. This one's been beautifully restored. I've got a write-up on it that I'll read to you, and please study the pictures closely, and you'll see how pristine this thing really is. Usually I like to take my test bikes out and flog them across the street and do the uphill and send it, but this one's just too nice. Just too much respect for it. It really is a museum piece that's going right back in the museum when we're done with this video. It's got a new paint job on it. The seat's been restored. New front and rear fender, new number plate. It's got new grips on it. The wheels, the guy who restored it actually owned a bike shop and was into lacing wheels, and he bought a brand new set of Acront rims and professionally hand polished them and put the wheels together with all new Buchanan spokes and brand new tires. So just beautifully done. Of course, the tires are top shelf Pirelli tires, front and rear. The rims are the Acront aluminum rims. Brand new pair of shocks on it, new chain. The Kickstarter and shifter have been re-chromed. They look brand new, as does the motor. Just a really nice piece. Even the hardware on the motor, on the side, the motor is all new. The pegs are nice and straight. It even has a kickstand, which is something that really wasn't too common back then.
Using this much original componentry, it doesn't get any better than this.
Exactly, and back in the 70s, suspension technology was progressing rapidly, and they had actually 5 different mounts for your shock, including that you could put it all the way in the back for what was popular at that point was a laid-down shock angle there. So you can see the tires are like brand new. That's how much time has been put on the restoration. The engine's been rebuilt. The carburetor's been replaced and upgraded to a much newer style carburetor. Let me grab the work order and I'll read it off to you. Again, the pictures and the way it sounds and runs speaks for itself. So it's a 1974.5 Penton KTM Jackpiner. It is in absolutely gorgeous condition. The original headlight and switch works properly with the off, low, and high beam positions, along with the working kill switch, which is pretty rare for that vintage. 74.5 had the laid down shock position all the way in the back that I pointed out a minute ago for increased travel. This is an extremely nice example of a Penton Jackpiner motorcycle. You can take it right to the vintage dirt bike shows or races the way it sits. The engine has the original bore, which is, you look at the bottom of the frame rails, look at the condition of the engine cases, and the fact that it has the original bore in it. You can see it's a very low mile bike with a brand new set of piston rings in the KTM engine. It's a fresh restoration. The amount of wear you see on the tires is how much riding it's had, which is very little to say the least. And just a partial list of the new parts in work includes brand new paint, both on the frame and the gas tank and side panels. New decals. The shocks are the Progressive 12 series shocks. All new cables, new Acront aluminum rims with the Buchanan stainless steel spokes. Top shelf stuff, folks, with the Pirelli MT16 tires and tubes. New brake shoes, new front fender, new rear fender, new foot pegs, brand new air filter. Forks are completely rebuilt and polished with new fork seals and oil. New seat foam and a new seat cover, and quite a bit more other miscellaneous parts and hardware, too numerous to mention here. The Bing carb was replaced with the new Mikuni carb, which runs a lot better than the original. The petcocks were rebuilt. Bike starts, runs, shifts, and idles excellent. It is a 6-speed transmission. I just took it for a rip down the street here. It's got that 6-speed overdrive, which is great for enduro or if you're going to do any road work during enduro. So just an outstanding example, one of the nicest we've had through here at the museum. And like I said earlier, almost too nice to take out and flog in the woods once you take it to this level. But heck, if you wanted to, this would be the one to do it on. The suspension is upgraded and updated. The tires, the shocks, brand new gold chain on it. We just put that gold chain on it. Just stunning. Junior, is there anything like you'd like to add?
Guys, early 70s Pentons aren't easy to find. It doesn't get any better than this unless there's some extremely low mileage originals residing in collections somewhere, and that's where most of them are right now, or destroyed, rotting away in barns.
A little history of the Penton KTM logo on the back of the seat and why today's motorcycles are KTM. The engines were made in the frames by KTM of Austria, and they're imported to the United States by John Penton, who was a former national racer. Him and his son were both national caliber racers, and John designed and built the first Penton bikes. His last name was Penton, so he called them Penton. And the engines were originally Sox motors with a KTM Australian frame. I'm 95% sure Austrian. I might be wrong about that, but in any event, I do know that John Penton started the company, and he was doing so well with it that KTM wanted in on the action, and eventually kind of bought him out, forced him out, bought him out, whatever it may be, and they did away with the Penton name, and now it's all KTM. But Penton, John Penton, is considered the godfather of modern day motocross. He's the one who bought the two-stroke bikes to the podium first and built this lineup of specialty off-road weapons that were designed to win at the national level. Really cool frame on this thing. Check out the rear frame rail here. It almost looks like something you'd see on a modern bike rather than being round. It kind of reminds me of the perimeter frame bikes now. They have that type of a frame tube. Speaking of frame tubes, take a close-up look at the picture that Kenny took of the bottom of the engine and frame. You can see it's pristine, not a single ding on it, as is the original crash pan on the bottom. Obviously not a bike that was raced through the woods or abused. So good luck finding a nicer one. Christmas is coming, folks. What is it, 6 weeks away? This would look great under the tree for yourself as a present. It's an investment quality classic that's only going to go up in value. They're becoming more and more rare. And this one is a fine example that really speaks for itself. It has the original exhaust with the two small outlets on the back of the muffler, which is kind of unique. I would assume that most of those got taken off and opened up for off-road racing, but that probably would have passed the sound test of the day, probably even for today. Everything is really top shelf on the bike, so it's Kaplan America approved. Call us if you have any questions, 860-454-7024. God bless America. Happy holidays, everybody. Some of the components that he probably didn't list as being brand new, you can see the handlebars are brand new. The bolts that hold the handlebars to the triple clamps are brand new. These rubbers that hold the tank on appear to be brand new. He did mention the cables. A lot of the hardware is new on it. The speedometer has 37 miles on it. I'm going to assume that's an NOS speedometer. The kicker and shifter are re-chromed. There's a lot of really like suspiciously brand new looking stuff on it.
It was a nut and bolt, and when the notes were made, a lot of stuff was.
Yeah, there was a lot of NOS hardware on here. The gentleman that built this was, I was told by Jeremy Esposito, who owned it last. He said that the guy he bought it from was a real Penton guru and was involved with all the forums and knew where to get all the hardware and components, the unobtainium stuff for it to make it this nice. That's why it came out so nice. Real beautiful piece.